Evening, Dr. Dhakarjina, ma'am.
So, good evening, everyone. Let's start with the session 3 on statistics, which would be the final session also on statistics. Okay. There has been some gap between the two classes. I hope there is a little bit of revision of whatever is covered in the first and second class so that today's class become more approachable and a easy graspable thing. Okay. So, did anyone try that 15-minute rule? Anyone?
Yes, madam.
Okay, fine. Okay, tell me now. Just a quick brief because we are just left with discussing few questions. So last time was a really big session where we actually covered a lot of things together. So this is test positive, negative as we saw, disease positive, disease negative. So what is this called? True positives. This would be false positives, false negatives. This is true negatives, right? On the basis of these table, you calculate sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, negative predictive value. Correct? Likelihood ratios are different. Please don't confuse them with predictive values. Right? Then we saw something called as Wilson and Junger criteria for screening, like which diseases should be screened. Correct? Then we saw something called as cohort study. Then there is something to compare with this was case control studies. Can anybody tell me few differences? Because we saw 2-3 slides on differences. Yes, one difference. One of you can take over and start saying. What is
Ma'am, case control is retrospective
very
and
good?
the cohort is prospective.
Very good. That's the most important difference. Yes, go ahead.
Then in case control, we are assessing the.
What do you calculate in control and what do you calculate in cohort?
In case control, we are finding out the complication and then looking for the
In
cause.
case control, we find out prevalence. In cohort, is to find out the incidence.
No, prevalence is something else. Case control, we calculate odds ratio. Cohort, we calculate relative risk. What other thing is important is because you do cohort as a follow-up, right? It involves resources, it involves time and all that. So it will be a time-consuming study. It will be more of an expensive study, right? Where there may be some loss of follow-up. So you will not prefer it for rare diseases, right? Whereas case control can be done. It is a easier, quicker option to control, to conduct the study, right? Now, because somebody told me prevalence, tell me what I told you at a point of time, whatever is the case, suppose common cold, malaria, whatever, at a point of time, like you're taking some snapshot at that particular time, right? That is called as a prevalence. Now, which studies did I tell you to calculate prevalence? Anyone? Prevalence was calculated by cross-sectional studies, which are studies done at a one point of time like a snapshot. This is called as prevalence, right? Then we also saw randomized control trial. I hope you all remember intention to treat and per protocol analysis based on what are included or not included dropouts, right? Then we saw something called as significance test. Anybody wants to go ahead? Parametric, non-parametric test. In parametric, tell me what were the two tests? So it was student t-test for paired or could be unpaired, and for correlation, it was Pearson's coefficient correlation. Non-parametric test for unpaired data, it was Mann-Whitney U-test. For a single sample, two observations, it was Wilcoxon signed rank test, right? Chi-square was for percentages and proportions, and there was Spearman's coefficient correlation, right? Anybody else? Any other differences? Okay. There was something called, what was NNT?
Number related treat.
Yes, that was one upon absolute risk reduction, right? Absolute risk reduction is a difference between the control event rate and the expected event rate, right? Then we saw standard deviation is root of variance. And similarly, when you extrapolate it to a population, it becomes standard error of mean, which was standard deviation upon the root of sample size, right? Then we saw prevalence formula was incidence into duration. That is why any chronic disease like diabetes and all are going to be having more prevalence as compared to common cold or any acute diseases with high mortality, right? What was this? Mean is equal to median is equal to mode, right? Where within one standard deviation, 2 and 3. Within one standard deviation, 68.3. Two standard deviations, 95.4. Three standard deviations, 99.7% the values. And within 1.96 standard deviations is your 95% of the sample values. What was this graph called as? Normal or Gaussian distribution, right? Depending on this, it is normal or Gaussian where it is equal. Depending upon if this becomes more positively skewed, it becomes this, it is negatively skewed. Right? Then we saw something called hypothesis testing. So hypothesis testing decision and what is actually in there in population reality. Right? So this is a null hypothesis. This is a alternate hypothesis. This is the null hypothesis. This is the alternate. Can you tell what was null, what was alternate? Definition. What is null? What is alternate? Anyone? Between two
Ma'am,
groups?
yeah. So the thing is, like, there is no relation. We say that basically there is no relation amongst the
Yeah.
group. Or
So
yeah.
if there is no difference, it is null. If the difference exists, it is alternate hypothesis, right? So if the both matches, this is correct. If both matches, this will be correct. Now what about these two? Can anyone tell? Which is here a type 1 error and which box should I? So this is A, you suppose, and this is B. Tell me which is type 1 error, A or B? Quick. We spent a lot of time in the last class on this. Which is type 1 error? A or B?
Null hypothesis being true is type 1 error.
Tell me A or B?
It will be A, ma'am.
A, very good. So this will be type 1 error, this will be type 2 error, right? So you tell me now, if I reject a null hypothesis, okay, null hypothesis rejected when it is true. That means in actuality, null hypothesis is true. That means between the two groups, there is no difference, okay? But it is rejected, means I am not able to prove. That means I find a difference between the two. Null hypothesis rejected means I am kind to accept alternate hypothesis. That means my study is showing a difference between the two gaps, between the two groups, when it is actually not there, right? That means in short, I can tell it is false positive error. Okay. Can you tell me now this? This is 1 or 2? Yes? This is 1 or 2. Null hypothesis rejected when it is true. That is, yes. This is which error? This is type 1 error, right? Why it was the type 1 error? Before starting study, we also set a level up to which we can expect something, right? Any study can't be 100% perfect. So type 1 error is determined against a preset level called as alpha. Important, type 1 error is not affected by sample size. Whereas, now tell me, null hypothesis getting accepted when it is false. That means in reality, there is a difference between the two groups, right? They are not equal. There is a difference. But my study fails to spot that difference, right? My study fails to spot that difference and accept the null hypothesis. That means it is going to reject the alternate hypothesis, right? This error is which error? Come on.
Type
Which is
2.
this error? Type 2 error. Very
Type-
good. And type 2 error, probability of making a type 2 error is determined by beta. And 1 minus entirely, last question which we discussed, if you remember the last question of that class. 1 minus the entire probability of making the type 2 error is called as power. And power and or type 2 error for that matter is determined by sample size as well as alpha. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so now yes, start. Yes, I sorry, you will not be able to see the other options.
Answer is 9.
Just a second. Yes, tell.
Sir, ma'am, question is not visible for me.
Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Come on. Has anyone arrived at an answer? Any one of you? Relative risk. How do you calculate? Which study calculates relative risk?
Case control study.
Answer is
9.
very good. So which studies calculate relative risk?
Case control study.
Oh,
Cohort study, ma'am.
very good. Cohort study calculates relative risk. And cohort study has a component of follow-up. That is why cohort studies are used to determine incidence. Why? Because in incidence, you have to see new cases, not already established cases, or go retrospect and see whether that person was a case of that disease or not. That is why for calculate incidence, you need cohort studies. In cohort, you calculate relative risk. Okay, so the answer is 9. Is everyone on the same page? Can we move ahead to the next question? So 450 upon 1000, right? That is incidence in the exposed. 450 smokers upon 1000 develop disease upon non-exposed. That means 50 upon 1000. 1000 gets nullified. So it's 450 by 59. Right? Next. This will try to help you to rule. There would be many options in the exam, many questions for that matter, where you may not be knowing 1 or 2 terms or 1 or 2 words extra, or maybe 1 or 2 sentences extra about that topic. So you have, in those cases, in those questions, you have to use the technique or the art of ruling out options and then coming on to the right. Though you may not directly be knowing at a spinal level that A, B, C, D is right, but you have to rule out. We just revised the significance test right now in one of these slides, if anyone remembers. Parametric, non-parametric.
Parametric.
Very good.
More than 2 groups.
Very good. So,
So Pearson.
Pearson was for correlation, if you remember.
Okay. So chi-square test.
Chi-square test was for parametric or non-parametric?
Non-parametric.
Student is for parametric.
Madam, ANOVA.
ANOVA, very good. So chi-square is non-parametric. One more important thing, chi-square is for percentages or proportions, right? Pearson
Okay.
is correlation. The thing, parametric test called regression analysis, it's a totally different thing, positive, negative correlation, right? Again, that is also a correlation. Student test is a parametric test, but it is only either for one group before after, which is paired student t-test, or unpaired, that is for 2 groups, right? If it is more than 2 groups, parametric data, quantitative, something could be measurable, parametric, quantitative, more than 2 groups, that answer is ANOVA test. Right? ANOVA is analysis of variance, full form. Right? So there are 3 groups here if you see, those with TB, without TB, and those with disseminated or fulminant TB. Okay, so 3 groups, parametric, mean fibrinogen, ANOVA, analysis of variance. Next. Do not hurry to give the answer. The first slide that we just saw in the revision right now will help you come at this answer. We have done this, if anyone remembers. In the first class, this question was done.
C.
No.
No, it's going to be B basically. Yeah. Because the thing is like for C, it will be true positive upon true positive plus false positive. So
Very
here
good.
is the
The
false
answer is
positive above. Yeah.
very good. So can you tell now why C is not the answer?
Yeah,
What
it
is the
has.
calculation for false positive? It's false positive upon false positives plus true negatives, right? So number of false positives, that is incorrectly identified negatives, by the total number of actual negative cases. So actual negative will be true negatives plus false positives. So this true positive in the denominator of C should be true negatives. Okay, so the answer is B. Normal Gaussian distribution, 68.3% values within one standard deviation, 95% approximately within two, and 99.7 within three standard deviations. Mean is equal to median is equal to.
Answer E.
Answer?
Answer is E.
No. So standard deviation is 6. Total number of subjects was 80, right? Yeah. Okay. So in a group of 80 subjects, measurements of diastolic blood pressure are found to be approximately normally distributed with a standard deviation of 6 and a mean of 74. So mean is 74. Okay. We know F for a normal distribution, 68% values lie within one standard deviation, 95.4. So approximately take it as 95 for convenience, lies within two standard deviation, and 99.7 lies within three standard deviations. So here one standard deviation is 6 mm of Hg, right? Above and below the mean. So 68% of the patients would lie between one standard deviation plus minus within the mean. One standard deviation is 6, right? So plus minus 6 from the mean. That is 74 plus 6 and 74 minus 6. Correct? This equates to 68 to 80, right? So 68% of the patients are going to have their pressures in the range, or the population is going to fall within the range of pressure 68 to 80. Okay? 68% of 80, roughly you are going to get approximately say 54 patients. Okay? So how much are remaining? 26 patients. So the rest 26 patients, out of which what will happen? How will you divide the rest 26? The rest 26 patients are going to have half of them pressures below 68, half of them pressures above 80. Okay? Or suppose if I say two standard deviations, that means it will become 12. 6 twos are, right? And the mean is 74. So 95% of the population is going to have pressures in the range of 74 plus minus 12. Okay. So that will come to 62 to 86. Okay. So 95% population of the 80. So 95% of 80. Okay. Is going to have pressures in the range of 62 to 86. The rest 5%, how will you divide? 2.5 will have below 62 and the rest 2.5 are going to have more than 86. So if I come to the question now, what is the answer? Nobody will have a DBP above 90 of 90 or higher. No. We just saw, right? There will be exactly 40 subjects with measured DBP higher than 74. 74 is the mean. Approximately 40 subjects will have DBP between 68 to 80. 40 subjects, no. 68% of 74, so 80. So we saw it was 54 patients were having the range of 68 to 80. That is one standard deviation, 68 to 80. So then what is the question? Answer is approximately 13 subjects will have a measured DBP level that is less than 68 and 2 will have a BPP that is above 86. Do you understand? So here rest remaining
Ma'am,
of 54 was 26. So 13 will have less than 68, 13 will have more than 80. Here again 2.5 will have less than 62, 2.5 will have more than 86. So if you see the 86 and a 68 is there in the option A.
ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, could you please explain again, ma'am? It was a bit hurry. I couldn't understand. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. So what was the question? 80 subjects, if I'm not wrong, yeah, 80 subjects, they were
Yeah,
measuring diastolic blood pressure, right? It was normally distributed with a mean of 74 and standard deviation of 6. Okay.
Hmm.
Now we know in normal distribution, Gaussian distribution, 68% of the population values are going to lie within one standard deviation, right? 95% is going to lie within 2 standard deviations and 99.7 is going to lie within 3 standard deviations of the mean. That means plus minus together. Here is my mean, median, mode 74, right?
So,
Plus and minus 1 standard deviation is going to cover 68%. That is why last time when I was discussing, we told this becomes 34, this becomes 34, right? Plus minus 2 standard deviations within the mean will cover 95% of the population. That means this would be 37.5, this would be 37.5, right? And the rest 99.7 will cover under 3 standard deviations, plus minus 3. Now with this mean of 74 and standard deviation of 6, we calculate with the same thing that we saw right now. So one standard deviation plus minus 1 standard deviation of the mean for this population is going to cover 68% of the total subjects. That means 74 plus minus 6 dBp would be the range that will cover 68% of this 80 people. 68% of 80 is roughly approximately going to
ma'am.
give you 54. Huh?
One down. See, 68 figure, how it came, ma'am?
This is the
68%.
figure that you have to remember. If you
Okay.
remember the slide, it was in red
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
No?
Yes, ma'am.
There were 4 figures I told you all to remember in that class. 68.3, 95, 99.7 and one mean equal to median equal to mode. If
Yeah,
you remember, right? So 68% is going to cover in this range. And now what is 74 plus minus 6 range?
it will be around 68
68 to 80.
to
Correct?
80. Yeah.
So out of 54 out of 80 patients are going to have their diastolic pressures in this range. Okay. So how many patients are remaining? 26 patients are remaining. Rest 26, again you will divide half like we did in the graph, plus minus. So rest 26, 13 is going to have less than 68 and rest 13 are going to have more than 80. This is a way to approach a normal distribution question. Okay. Suppose if I work for plus minus 2 standard deviations, can somebody tell me now? It will cover 95% of this 80 subjects. Plus minus 2 standard deviations of mean, that means what? It would be 62 to 86. That means 74 plus minus 2 into 6. 2 standard deviations means 2 into 6. Right? And mean is 74. So 74 plus minus 12, that will give you 62 to 86. That means 95% of my population is going to have diastolic blood pressures in these range. Similar to last slide, what I did here. Here, rest 5% are going to have how much? 2.5 almost will have less than 62 and 2.5 will have more than 86. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Take a breather now. We already know how to calculate this. Calculate.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you show the slide of that explanation?
Okay. This one?
Yeah, that and the questions answer options showing slide. Next, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Come on, this should be very quick. Then again, we will practice the question that we just saw. Similar to that. Is anyone finding any difficulty to draw a table? Do you want me to draw a table? The total is 405. 5 are test positive. In cancer group, 40 are positive in non-cancer group. Two are test negative in cancer group. So, cancer, non-cancer, disease positive, negative, what we say, right? Test positive, test negative, total. Here also we'll have some total, right? So in cancer, how many are testing? Total is 405. Okay. 5 positive patients confirmed with cancer. So here it would be 5. 40 positive patients were found not to have cancer. So not cancer and test positive 40. So here it is 45. Right? We know this total number of patients is 405. So this comes here as 360. Right? Then colonic carcinoma was found in 2 patients who tested negative by this. Whereas no cancer was found in 358 patients. So here it would be 2, here it would be 358. So 740 plus 398. Come on. Tell me the negative predictive value now. So 358 divided by 360. Okay, almost close to 100%. Whatever the answer is, very close to 100, it will be there. It will be 99 point something. Are you all able to get it or not? Shall I move to the next question?
Mm.
Any issue with this table, anyone? Yes? What is the standard deviation here?
Square root of variance.
Square root of variance. Very good. So 10, right?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Waalaikum Assalam warahmatullah. Class class
If possible, one of you can tell the workup of this question, whatever you did. Quickly, 1, 2, 3. After you finish.
Ma'am, is the answer A?
Very good. Can you defend for one or two statements? Why not?
Actually, I got A correct. So,
Okay. See the D
can I
option.
explain A?
Tell.
Okay.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Here we got the standard deviation as 10. And
Yes.
so our option A is telling approximately 95% of measurement in this population lies between 130 and 70. So 95% means it is 1.6 standard deviation. So
Almost
1
2.
points. Okay.
1.96. So you can take it as 2.
Okay, 2. Okay, fine. So if we calculate in that, with 150 is the mean.
Yes.
So we will get it like 130 and 70 plus
So
plus or
150 plus
minus
minus 20, right?
20.
2 into
Yeah.
standard deviation. So 2 tens are 20. So 150 plus minus 20 will
Minus
cover
20
95% of population,
population.
right?
Yeah.
So 130 to 170 would be 95% of population. So now see the D. Is normal distribution anytime skewed?
No,
No, right?
Yes.
no.
It is always mean equal to median equal to mode. So D is not there.
Remote.
If A, you are
Hmm.
saying 95% is between 130, 170, can 95% be between 148 to 152? No. You itself here, you
No.
can just understand by the range also. When your standard deviation is 10, your range can't be just between four numbers, 148 to 152. Even if you take one standard deviation, there has to be a difference of 10 at least, right? So E can't be the answer as well. Now the difference between the highest and the lowest measurement was 100. That means what?
99 percentage.
Yes.
Uh,
So that
that
becomes
comes between
30,
three
right?
standard
So it
deviations.
still becomes 120 to 180.
Yeah.
Right? So still the difference you will not get as 100. 120 to 180 difference would only be 60. Right? And now when you say
Yeah.
99% patients have between 120 to 180, do you understand B will become false? Where 99% is getting covered up at 120, do you think half of the patients will have less than 100? No, it's barely 1 to 2% which will be less than 120. And below 100, it would still be less.
Oh,
I hope it is
okay.
clear.
Yes. Yes. Ma'am.
Yes? Next.
Yes.
Clinical trial was designed to compare.
Ma'am,
Yes, yes.
ma'am, the previous question, could you just explain the flow sheet one by one, ma'am? Again, I don't understand.
See,
Sorry.
understand. No issue. See. Okay, let me see the question once. In a study of hypertension, so here they are doing systolic blood pressures, normal
Yes, ma'am.
distribution, mean of 150 and standard deviation of 10. Right? We
10.
know standard deviation is root of variance. So standard deviation here it would be 10. Right?
10.
Mean
Yes, ma'am.
was 150 and they are measuring systolic blood pressures which is normally distributed. Okay? So
Yes.
68% of the population is going to be within plus minus 1 standard deviation of mean. So plus minus 1 in 1 tenza. So that is 10 of
10.
mean. What is the mean? 150, right? So plus
Yes.
minus 10 of 150. That means it is 140 to 160. Correct?
Ma'am, how, ma'am? I don't. 10 of 150, 10, you have to deduct.
So you
10.
have to do plus minus 10 from the mean, which is 150. See,
Okay.
everybody can't have exact mean value of 150. You have to understand, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody
Yes.
may either be ranging between 1 deviation minus 1 plus, 2 deviation minus 2 plus, 3 deviation minus 3 plus, whatever. That is why we are doing plus minus both. And plus
Mhm.
minus 1 plus minus 2 will cover 68%, will cover 95%. This you have to remember. Right? And what is this 68%? It plus minus 1 of what? Of mean. That means it can go that much deviation ahead or below or above from the mean. That means my 68% of population is going to lie plus minus 10 of the mean. That is plus minus 1 standard deviation, which is 10.
Mhm.
Right? So plus minus 10 of 150 would become 130 to 160.
Yeah.
140 to 160.
140 to 1.
Right? So 140 to 160 would be the range for 68% of the people. Now, similarly, if standard deviation is 10, two standard deviations become 20.
20.
So 95% of my population is going to lie within 2 standard deviation. That means within 20 of the mean, which is 150. So 150 plus
130.
minus 20. So it will be 130 to 170.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So if you
Yeah.
see this option, 5% measurements are between 130 to 170. That becomes true. Right? This also leaves us with the fact that only 5% are going to be out of this range. Right? Just with these 5% out of this range means what? 2.5 would be below 130. 2.5 would be above 170.
Yeah.
Just with
Yes.
this single statement, you can rule out the other statements here.
Yes.
Okay? Next.
Mhm. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Compare the use of a heater probe plus injection of thrombin versus use of a heater probe with placebo. Results are showed as 16 out of 127, 13 out of 120. What is the test use? Parametric, non-parametric?
Non-parametric.
Very good. So out of the answers, which is definitely ruled out, which is a parametric test here. T-test is parametric, no? ANOVA we also saw was parametric, more than 3 groups, 2 groups. So what is the answer? A and B are for parametric, we are seeing non-parametric.
Chi-Square's test.
Very good. So basically 16 out of 127, 13 out of 120 means what? Proportion. How much proportion of
यहाँ
individuals?
4-5 महीने से अमोक्सिसिलिन खाता है, उसके वजह से है ये, स्टॉप कर दीजिए.
Is somebody talking to me? Okay, next. Come on.
Answer is 10.
No. You don't have to calculate relative risk. It is relative risk reduction.
Answer is 25.
Can you explain?
Absolute reaction is reduction.
Yes, go on.
It is in the study group it is 15, that is 30%. In placebo it is 40%. So absolute reaction is only 10 and its rate is 10 by 40, that is 25.
Very good. So basically, what is relative risk reduction? So relative risk reduction is what? Control event rate minus experimental event rate upon control event rate. Right? That means how much a treatment intervention is going to reduce the risk of a particular outcome, whether that group is control group or whether that it is experimental or interventional group. Right? Or you can, what is this called as? Anyone? We just saw it in the revision slide when I was starting the class in number needed to treat.
Absolute
This is
risk
called as absolute risk reduction,
reduction.
right? So
Yes, sir.
relative risk reduction becomes what? Relative, right? So it is not absolute. That is why you divide absolute by the control rate. Can now somebody tell me the answer? Anyone else apart from those the person who told? Okay, tell me what is the absolute risk reduction you get here, the numerator, which I want here. What is the absolute risk reduction here? Yes.
Sir, 5. Ma'am, absolute risk reduction is 5.
Absolute risk reduction is what?
5. 5.
No.
Oh,
What is absolute risk reduction here?
can't.
So absolute risk reduction here, it would be 20 upon 50 minus 15 upon 50. Correct? So 20 minus 15 upon 50. So 5 upon 50, that would be 1 by 10. Right? So absolute risk reduction is 1 by 10. So relative risk reduction would become absolute risk reduction upon control event rate. So 1 upon 10 upon, what is the control rate here as we saw? 20 upon 50. So 1 by 10 divided by 20 by 50. So that will become to some by 1 by 4. So that would be 25%. So this is the question here, right? Now here in control event rate, what it is? An experimental event rate. Okay. So what is the control event rate here? Control is placebo, 20 by 50. What is the experimental event rate? That means giving aspirin. So 15 out of 50 is the experimental event rate. right? So 20 by 15 and 15 by 50. So the absolute difference between the two, which is absolute risk reduction, becomes 5 upon 50, which is 1 by 10. So control event rate is 20 upon 50. Right? So 1 by 10 divided by 20 by 50. So 1 by 10 divided by 20 by 50. Right? So that becomes 50 upon 200. 51s are 54s are. So 1 by 4 becomes 25%. Is this clear?
Hmm.
Yes? Okay. Next. Come on, quick.
Specificity.
Huh? Test is normal. Patient is unlikely to have a pulmonary embolism.
Negative
Precision.
predictive value.
So the test can predict that a person with a negative result, that means a normal result, will not likely have the disease.
So negative predictive.
What is that value called as? Where you tell that if a test is normal or if a test is negative, the person will not likely have the disease, or a negative test result will kind of tell you that the patient would be free of disease or patient would be unlikely to have the disease. What is this unlikely? What dragging you towards in the option?
Negative predictive value.
Very good. So this is a negative predictive value. And that is why if you understand now, even in your concept of embolism, right? If the well score is more than equal to 4, we directly do CTPA. But if my well score is in between intermediate, where the PE is unlikely, what do I do? D-dimer. If the D-dimer is high, then only I go for and do a CTPA for embolism patients, right? So this tells me the negative predictive value of D-dimer, and that is why it has such a high role in patients of embolism.
Madam, option B.
B.
B, second option, B.
Will that be 95 or 68%? 60 plus minus 4 is going to give you 56 to 64, no? So plus minus 4 means plus minus 1 standard deviation.
Yes, madam, it is. I made a
So that
mistake.
is 68. Don't. Someone is using phone along with it, or what? There's some constant noise.
Madam, option will be D. Fourth option.
So do you use standard deviation here or standard error of mean? What is the word here that I told you in the last class where you have to use standard error of mean? Whose formula also I think I told you. Standard error of mean. Standard deviation upon root of n. The word is confidence limits. Wherever you see population, wherever you see confidence, your standard deviation gets replaced by standard error of mean. So standard error of mean here, it would be what? Standard deviation is 4 upon root of 400. What is root of 400? 20.
So 1 by
So tell me, what is the standard error of mean here? Has anyone calculated that at least? Standard error of mean. Standard error of mean here would be standard deviation upon root of n. Standard deviation I told you was 4 upon root of 400, which becomes 20, right? So this is 1.5. So standard error of mean is 0.2. So now whatever plus minus 1 plus minus 2 standard deviation will become standard error of mean. Percentage will remain same. Okay. Now please tell me the range for this and the range for this. Come on, work up that much. Tell me quick. The mean I told you was 60, right? The mean is 60. Okay. Standard deviation, standard error of mean we calculated was 0.2. So this is 0.2. Come on, tell me now. 68% of population value would lie between what and 95 would lie between what? Quick. Very simple. So 68% of the population values will lie between plus minus 1 of mean. So 60 plus minus 0.2, right? 2 standard deviations means 2 into 0.2 becomes 0.4. So 95% values will lie between 60 plus minus 0.4. Yes or no? So this becomes 59.8 to 60.2. Correct? Next. Come on. For 95 it will be
59.6 to 60.4.
yes, 59.6 to 60.4. Okay. If you want, you can take the screenshot of this slide and then go to the options so that now you'll be able to tell me what is the answer. Come on. So all the question is all the three options are telling you 95% first. So you have to understand 95% we got between what? What was the answer for 95%? Yes. This was what? 59.6 to 60.4. Can you see some answer like that? 59.6 to 60.4 covering 95% of this population.
Option A.
Option A. Very good. Okay.
Option A.
How do you know whether their statistic is significant or not? Has it any question mentioning you whether the result is significant or not?
Because p value is much higher.
Higher. Normally accepted p-value is 5%, no? 0.05. So if the p-value is less than 0.05, that means there is a less than 5% chance of error, right? We fix some chance of error before starting the study, that is p. That this much error can occur by chance because no study is a perfect study. But now here my p-value by chance is taking less than 5% chances, less than 0.05. But here the p-value is 0.28. So that is 28% chance of committing an error. So 28% chance of rejecting something that is true. So rejecting what? Rejecting that the observed relationship or some difference between the two groups has occurred by pure chance is going to be nullified here, because your margin of error, your basic error by chance cutoff is a higher cutoff. So your whatever null hypothesis you're going to get here, right? Because the error is so much, you cannot comment on the null hypothesis here. So what is the answer? So p value is 28% or it is 0.28, right? Which becomes more than 0.05. If my chance error is more than the actual cutoff, that means a p-value of more than 0.05 will not be able to prove that the null hypothesis is true, right? That means it is simply meaning that there is no evidence of a difference that is found between two groups. This could be because of variable reasons. The sample size would be less, right? There would be high variability in the data. That means what? First of all, you have to understand that this is a very high chance of error that you have kept. So maybe what the person told just now as an answer, statistically significant, this may not be statistically significant. But when the p-value is more than 0.05, please remember at this instance, you fail to reject the null hypothesis. That means what? There is not enough evidence here because the error is so high that now you do not have enough evidence in the study or enough proof in the study to conclude a significant difference, right? Only then, only if your study is very significant, errors are very less, can you comment that the two groups have significant difference. Here, my error chance is so high that I am not having enough evidence or enough proof to conclude a significant difference. That means what? I cannot prove alternate hypothesis is true. That means I'm kind of staying on the null hypothesis. Correct? Fail to reject null hypothesis means I am trying to prove null hypothesis is correct. I am not able to reject the null hypothesis. Tell me. Two drugs can't be considered equivalent, obviously, because they are high. We are staying on null hypothesis. Okay, so we don't know the other alternate hypothesis is true or not true. Correct? But see the B option, the null hypothesis of equal drug effects. That means there is no significant difference between the two. That is only your null hypothesis. Has not been disproved. Means has been accepted, has not been rejected. And that is the answer. Normal Gaussian distribution. You don't have to take a pen and paper in this. What is important for normal Gaussian distribution? Mean, median, mode. What is the relation?
Equal.
So what is the answer?
D.
D. Very good. Next. What is the most commonly used clinical trial that I told you? Most appropriate. So it doesn't mention most practical as we saw last time, right? Doesn't tell you whether you have to compare incidents or not. Doesn't tell you that you want results quickly. It wants you to mention the most appropriate one. That means the most ideal one by which you will go, irrespective of time constraints, money constraints. So which is the most common clinical trial that is done?
Retrospective audit.
Hmm. Will retrospective thing tell you whether antibiotic is reducing sepsis? For that, you will need some follow-up of the patient, no, to see whether antibiotics are reducing sepsis or not.
Option
Randomized
C.
double-blind. Randomized double-blind placebo
Very good.
trial.
So that is the most common trial that is done. That is a clinical trial. What all your base studies, guidelines, whatever you are reading for any of the diseases, 99% of the trials are all double-blinded, randomized controlled trials. That is just a definition of confidence interval. This is what we did here for standard error of mean. Why we calculated? Because there was confidence in the question. So 95% were lying between two. Confidence or population is mentioned, you have to use this and not standard deviation because it is just for one study. You can't extrapolate it to population. Right? So if 95% lies within this much, that means 5% is going to lie outside of this range. So basically a range of values, from the data that will tell you that so much percentage of population will lie within plus minus 1, 2, whatever standard deviations, and the rest is going to lie outside that range that you calculate for 1, 2 standard deviations. Okay, from a one particular mean, whatever mean is there, plus minus standard things. Yes, anyone?
Option A.
Very good.
A.
Very good. Next. Let's draw a 2 by 2 table and just note down. Sensitivity is 92, specificity 93, prevalence is 1.2. Yes, anybody is able to draw the test, the positive, test negative, total, disease positive, negative, total. Come on, tell me. At least tell me the values. So you don't know the total they have not given, you take it as 1000. Prevalence of the abnormality or the disease is 1.2. So 1.2 percentage of the 1000. So disease positive total would be 12. So how much remains here? 1000 minus 12, 988. Then specificity is 93%. So 93% of 988. So this would come to somewhere around 920. Okay, so 920 and this 988. So this would be approximately 68. Sensitivity is 92. So 11, 1. So this becomes almost 79, 921,000. The question was asking you positive predictive value. So positive predictive value would be 11 upon 79 something.
ഞാൻ ഒരു ആന്റിബയോട്ടിക് തരുന്നുണ്ട് അത് 5 ദിവസം കഴിക്കും പിന്നെ ഒരു സിറപ്പ് ഉണ്ട് അത് കുടിക്കാനുള്ളതല്ല.
So 11 by 79 would come to somewhere around 13 point something. Sorry. So you will get approximately, maybe answer is 14. Okay. P-value. Now I just told you what is p-value. The probability that the result of the study is obtained by chance. Right? So the answer is C. Right? Whenever I just told you, whenever the p-value is larger than the established value, usually more than 0.05, that means you don't have much evidence much evidence to establish a difference, right? So you have to accept onto the null hypothesis. You can't reject it, right? You cannot reject it and therefore you accept it. So null hypothesis gets accepted. But once your p-value becomes smaller and smaller, that means the chance of error becoming smaller and smaller, that means the significance of the study is going to increase because error is less, right? Once the error is less, you have sufficient significance or evidence to prove that there is a difference. And that is why smaller p-values will hold an evidence to reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate one, right? So before commenting that there is a significant difference, you have to make sure the error is least. That is why p-values of a lesser value will give you more and more evidence to accept the alternate hypothesis, to reject the null hypothesis. Mean, median, mode. Come on, calculate. So what is mode here? 54, no?
54.
Yes. Median is middle value from arranging the numbers. So start by arranging from 38, then 41, then 43, 51, then 2 times 54, then 57, 58, 77 and 93. So what comes in the middle? The middle two numbers would be again 54. Right? So average of that would be 54. So median mode both are 54. Any option with that? Yes, you cannot
Option.
come. So what is bean? Total divided by this. So divide all these 10 numbers and divided by 10. So 57 plus 41 plus 43, it will come. What is the total of these observations coming? $57 plus 41 plus 43 plus 54 plus 93 plus 77 plus 58 plus 54 plus 51 plus 38. What is it coming? So is the answer A or C? Because we
C,
calculated median and mode is 54.
C, C.
C, very good. So C is the answer. So it is almost 566. That means total divided by 10. Come on.
Ma'am, could you please show the previous slides answer? Yes,
This
ma'am.
566 is plus 50, all the 10 numbers you have to add and then divide by total number of observations, that is 10.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Come on, quick. Hypothesis. Again, significance test, parametric, non-parametric. Come on. Reduction in A1C, parametric, correct? Two groups. It is not before, it is two groups. One is going to receive standard therapy, one is going to receive drug. So unpaired data parametric test. Answer is, come on. Unpaired data, which parametric test is used?
Unpaired t-test.
Unpaired data parametric test.
Unpaired
So,
t-test.
unpaired t-test. Very good. Next. "45 people have a negative test and do not have the disease." Unlike in the previous question where D-dimer was telling unlikely to have the disease. Now somebody had told this answer previously. So do not fall into the trap of this language. Here they are saying for sure they will not have the disease if the test is negative. That means true negatives. Which of the value options here deal with true negatives? In which formula do you use true negatives?
Specificity.
Very good. So the answer is specificity. You just have to tell what is the English sentence meaning of this mathematical line of 1 in 3 to 1 in 10, 95%. Just have to put it into a statement.
Number needed to treat.
Answer? Come on, this is very direct. It's not even calculation. So 95% confidence interval, 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. 1 in 3 is how much percentage? 33, no?
33%.
1 in 10 is 10%. So 95% will lie between 10 to 33%. So the rest 5% will lie out of 10 and 33. So 2.5 will be less than 10, 2.5 will be more than 33. Ninety-five percent will come between 10 to 33%. That is 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. That is 10 to 33. So 95% of the patients are going to have reduced symptoms. So that is how much percentage it is? 10 to 33. So 95%, you can be therefore 95% sure that 10 to 33% patients will benefit from the new drug. Right? So your confidence interval becomes 1 in 3 to 1 in 10, 95% confidence interval. What that means what? 95 percentage of values that the true population parameter is going to lie within plus minus 2 of the mean, or 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. Here it's given 1 plus minus 2 standard deviations of mean. Error of mean is given as 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. Correct? So the range of values you will get, that is why you say you're confident about it. That is confidence interval. You will be confident that 95% people are going to fall within these range of standard deviation or standard error of mean. So that is 95% of population are going to come within 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. Come on now. So 1 in 3 to 1 in 10 is 10 to 33, 95%. See the option E. We can be 95% certain or confident or sure that between 10 to 33% of patients will benefit from the new drug.
Ma'am, but the thing is, like, I have a doubt. Well, the thing is, like, p-value plays a crucial role here, right, ma'am?
Is the p-value given to you?
Yeah, so the option D is asking about that, ma'am. That is why I was wondering whether D could be correct, if you could guide us in that context.
P-value comes where?
Yes, ma'am, in context of the statistical significance.
Hmm. So if there is no p-value, you will not determine significance at all. So why are we doing hypothesis testing? Yes? P-value will only tell you whether null or alternate is true, rejected, accepted. As I just told you, p-value of less than or more than 0.05, right? A probability, a error, or an observation by chance. Whether the p-value is there or not there, it will just tell you that whether the null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis evidence whether to accept or reject a null or a true hypothesis or a alternate hypothesis. Right? Here a test is properly done and it is telling you about confidence interval. That means what? It is following a particular distribution. It is following a particular population mean, and that is why you're able to get that 95% confidence interval. If the study was not significant, they would not have commented on the confidence interval. As I told you, what is confidence interval? That means it is 95% population. So you are almost confident or sure or certain that so much percentage of population is going to lie between these values. And the other thing is, if you read the question, it has told you very properly that they have found it to significantly reduce symptoms. That itself means that the study was significant, irrespective of the p-value. It is only with respect to null and alternate where you will actually comment on the p-value. If your question is mentioning confidence interval or actual results of the test, you cannot just see the p-value and then say whether it is significant or not. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am. But the
Yes.
thing is, like, the question definitely is quite intriguing, given that, only 10 to 33% are getting benefited. I mean, kind of like the intricacy associated with this question. I mean, what kind of drug would it be? You know,
That is all
let's say.
not your. See, this is a framed question. It is not an actual this thing. Whenever you try to extrapolate by adding extra information in the question, you can make any option correct. I can add two statements here more and make B, C, D correct. Whatever is given in the question, only from that information you have to extrapolate your answer. Like you're doing now, there is no p-value. Then you start thinking about p-value, then relate it to statistical significance, and then come to the answer D. No. Whatever is given in the question, only that information has to be used, and then you have to answer the question. If that would have been there, if this was there in the question, then this would be correct, but that is not in the question. So you cannot extrapolate or presume if this would have been there, then A would also be correct. If B would have been there, then this is also correct. You can't do that in the question. A question is a limited amount of information given to you. That is why it has one correct answer. If I add or make twist these lines or add one or two sentences in this line, I can make C or D correct also. Please do not extrapolate extra sentences and then try to make other options correct.
Ma'am, C.
Okay.
Option E.
No.
B. It is B because it is it is a survey and new patients are detected. That means incidence is there. Incidence.
Where is a question mentioning new patients or follow-up or anything?
Consecutive patients. Consecutive.
So there are 200 patients coming to the clinic today, which is a diabetes outpatient clinic. Okay. Out of them, I find 27 to found to be diabetic retinopathy. So at a particular point of time, out of 200 patients, 27 are diabetic retinopathy cases. So 27 upon 200. That will be almost 27 by 2. So 13.5%. Right? They will only tell you what? That so many patients have diabetic retinopathy. You don't know whether they are new. They just developed it today, tomorrow, or on follow-up. There is no follow-up mentioned at all. It is at a particular point of time, patients coming to the clinic. So this is going to tell you prevalence and not incidence. That is why A and B are not the option, and therefore hence E is also not the option. Okay. Now the question is prevalence of diabetic retinopathy in diabetics in the UK or prevalence of diabetic retinopathy in this population. What are we calculating it? 27 upon 200. So are we calculating for the population or this 200 group of patients? 200 group of patients, right? This particular population, the prevalence is 27%. UK population, we don't know. Then we have to take a larger sample size, do larger studies, and maybe on a larger sample size, we'll be able to find out the actual prevalence or do multiple such 200 studies and find the mean of the prevalence of all those studies to find the population. So the answer here would be D. Standard error of mean. Standard deviation upon root of n. So standard deviation is 5 upon root of 100. So 5 upon 10. So the answer is 0.5. So is it not 0.6? It's not 5. It's not 12. So what is the answer? 0.5 is what? Larger than standard deviation or smaller than standard deviation, which is 5. So it is smaller than standard deviation, right? So answer is E. I hope everybody understands this. Standard error of the weights. Standard error is what? Standard deviation upon root of population sample size. So 5 upon root of 100. 5 upon 10, that becomes 0.5. Right? Now here directly 0.5 I don't have in the option. So answer is D or E. So what is my standard deviation? 5 kgs. So my standard error becomes smaller than the standard deviation. That is why we use standard error where there are larger groups, where there is confidence interval, where there is population mentioned. Hence we use the standard error and not standard deviation. Come on, sensitivity. Direct table is given to you.
Option A.
Very good. Next.
E. One. 99 upon 1 minus 90.
Answer?
Number 10.
Yes?
Mm,
Tell me what is your 2 by 2 table, or if you're able to create that, or if directly formula you're using. Whatever is there, tell me the calculation first step.
mm.
What are you supposed to calculate? What does it say? Proportion of those that test positive will truly have the disease. So what are you supposed to find out here?
Positive predictive value, ma'am.
Very good. So how many are diseased here?
10.
Huh? So sensitivity is 99, 99, 90, 10. So how many are diseased? 10. So not diseased become 990 out of 1000. So test positive, negative, disease positive, negative, total, total. So total disease positive 10, disease negative 990, total 1000. True positives are what? Sensitivity is 99% of 1000 or 99% of 10 for actual sensitivity. So true positives would be 99% of 10. So this would be almost 9.9 or 10 only. Or you can take it as 9.9. So this would be 0. And the specificity is specificity is 90%. So 90% of 990.
9.
So this would be almost 891. So this would become 99. So this would be 109. This would be 891. Okay. Approximately if you do, this would be 9.9 and this would be 0.1. We have solved enough examples of sensitivity, specificity, positive, negative, predictive value. So what is positive predictive value here?
Positive number.
10 upon 10 plus 99 or 10 upon 109. Right? 10 upon 109. So even if I do 1, 10 tens are 100. If you take 110 almost, it becomes approximately 11. So answer is 1 by 11. That calculation which I did here is not there in the solution. Okay. They have calculated it by a very different way. It's a very complicated equation that they have used. If you see here, PPV is equal to sensitivity into prevalence, sensitivity 1 minus specificity. It's a very complicated equation. So rather prefer this, making this 2 by 2 table always. Because in some places they may give you sensitivity, specificity. There's some places then if they ask negative predictive value, you have to again ratify one more this huge formula. So go by 2 by 2 table and calculate. Don't blindly ratify the solutions, okay?
Ma'am,
Yes.
the previous slide, can I just say what ma'am has calculated? The previous slide, ma'am. In
This
this,
one?
10 people had out of 1000, 10 had diabetes. So it is, so remaining 990 doesn't have a disease.
Right.
Yeah. So true negative is 990, ma'am. No, true negative is.
So 90%, no. What do you calculate? What is the formula for specificity?
True negative divided by true negative plus false positive.
So then what is the numerator? 90% of the total 990, no? You understanding?
Pardon, ma'am, pardon?
90% of 990. That means 0.9 into 990. 90% of 990 would be specificity is 9 because specificity is given as 90. Right? What is true negative? Here is your true negatives, no? That means 90 of 990 will come as 891. Correct? So if 891 are my true negatives out of 990, the remaining 99 becomes the other part of the numerator. Similarly, my sensitivity was given as how much? 99. Right? So almost 99% of these 10 are true positives. Right? True positive is this part of the table. So 99% of 10 is 9.9.
9.9, yep. Yes.
right? By observation, the patient can't be 9.9. So maybe you can take it as 10 here. And even if you take 9.9, the calculations are not going to be much different.
Okay.
Okay. So if you write 9.9 here, out of 10, the remaining comes here as 0.1. Right? Now, anywhere there is a word like prediction, likely, okay, that is means it is asking you predictive values. So what is
Okay.
this?
Ma'am,
They are telling you proportion that will test positive will have disease. Means those who will test positive will have disease positive. That means they want you to calculate positive predictive value. So what
okay.
is positive predictive value here? 10 upon
True.
109. 10 upon 109. 10 tens are 100. 110 would become 10 11s are. So this almost 110 if you take, it would be 11. So the answer is 1 by 11. Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, this is very complicated. If I don't know if you will be, if you are able to remember, it's well and good. Otherwise, the best thing is table because next day, if they ask you negative predictive value or anything, you don't have to ratify extra formulas. Start. Next question. Odds ratio. So, odds of event in the exposed group upon odds in the control group. So, what is the odds of exposure? 80 upon 120. 120. 200 patient with and 200 lung cancer. 18. So 80 upon 200 minus 80. Then 70 reported in the control group. So 70 upon 210 minus 70. So 80 by 120 divided by 70 by 140. So 80 by 120 would be approximately 2 by 3. And 70 by 140 would be half. So 2 by 3 divided by half. So it would be 4 by 3. Getting it? Yes?
Ma'am, can you please write it down and show, ma'am, please?
Okay, tell me the values. I don't remember the entire question. So odds in the exposed group and odds in the control group. Okay. So the event was in the bird exposure group, I think 80 was reporting positive.
Yes.
Yes. So 80 upon the total minus 80. That means 200 minus 80. And in the control, it was 70 upon 210 minus 70. See the question. 200 cases, 80 were causing positive in the exposure. So 80 upon 200 minus 80. Out of the 210 controls, 70 reported an exposure. So 70 upon 210 minus 70.
So here control is 70 divided by 210 by 7 minus 70, ma'am.
Yes, because the controls are 210 here and the
Yes,
cases are 200. And always in the odds ratio, if you remember in the class, very important, I told you, you'll probably miss out that you don't have to take the total cases. You have to subtract the positive exposures. That is why 80 upon 200 minus 80, 70 upon 210 minus 70. So 80 upon 120 would always be 2 by 3 and
2 by
70
3.
by 140 is half. So 2 by 3 divided by 1 by 2. That means it is 4 by 3. Okay. So the answer is 4 by
3.
next. So it is is it normally distributed or is it skewed data?
Skewed.
Very good. So what is the best way to summarize a skewed data? Is mean a good way to summarize a skewed data? So what is that one value or one measure that is resistant to the skewness, that is resistant to one of the extreme values?
Median.
Median, very good. So obviously the answer is not A, B, C now. So tell me D or so
E.
to summarize something, you have to better summary is always given when you have a range or when you have one absolute value.
Absolute value.
Huh?
Mm.
So that absolute, so anything apart from that absolute value will not be covered, no? If you give one absolute value,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Okay.
So the best way to summarize any skewed data, the first thing is always median. The other better way to summarize the skewed data is always to give a range in the population. So that even if the population is not symmetrical, even if the data is skewed, that range will help us to consolidate whatever lies within and whatever lies outside the population mean. Because the mean is a skewed here. Because mean you cannot use here because it's a skewed data. Okay, so the answer is median and the range.
Range.
Okay,
Madam,
this
is it right positive skewed or negative skewed?
you tell me.
I get always confused.
Mean is more than median. So
Then it is positive skewed.
very good. This we saw last time. 1 upon absolute risk reduction. So it is so 1 upon absolute risk reduction in percentage. So you multiply by 100. So 11% means 11 upon 100. So that becomes 1 upon 11 upon 100. So it's almost 100 upon 11. So you'll get 9 point something, that is close to 10. So the answer would be 10.
Ma'am, can you please scroll to the right? Left.
Option E.
Anyone else? Good, very good. Yes, the one who said option E, can you please tell how?
Yes, madam. The 1 in 40, that is 2.5% is above, 2.5% below. That is 95. All are in 95% confidence limit. So
Very
there is two standard deviation above, two standard deviation below. So the mean will be 160. Median will be same because it is normal distributed, and from mean to another extreme, that is 171 and 160, that is 10. It is two standard deviation. So one standard deviation will be to 5.
very good. Is this clear to other students? Whatever is said is making sense to all of you?
No, ma'am.
Can you repeat? Little slow.
Yes, madam. There is 1 in 40 patient, that is 25 2.1 2.5%, above the values range and 2.5% below the range value.
Very good.
So the confidence limit is from 150 to 170. That is 95%.
Very good.
So this is the average of two extreme value is the mean, that is 160, and it is 95% limit. So it is from the mean to the extreme value is two standard deviation. That is 170 minus 160 equal to 10. So standard deviation will be 10 by 2, it is 5.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Madam.
First, you have to rule out that it is normal distribution. So mean and median has to be equal, right? But that is enough is not that alone is not enough here to arrive at the answer, but it help you to rule out at least certain options like A and D. Because it is normally distributed, your mean and median to be same, right? Now between 150 to 170 lies your 95% of population. That is two standard deviation of population lies between 150 to 170, right? That is 20 almost, a range of 20, and it is two standard deviations that lies between 150 to 170, right? So each 10 value comes in each of the groups, right? Plus minus 2.5. So because it is two standard deviations, it will become 2 into 5. That will give you a value of 10, right? And plus minus if you do from 160 plus minus thing, then you will understand. If you take standard deviation as 5, and if you take other thing is you calculate it from the option. If you now take mean as 160, standard deviation as 5, right? Calculate the 95% range. So 95% nothing but 160 plus minus 2 into 5. That means 160 plus minus 10. That's 1 to 170, right? So 95% is going to lie between 150 to 170. That means the rest 2.5 is between the other range. That means 2.5 would be less than 150, 2.5 would be more than 170, and that is what is given in the question. You can do it either ways. Is it clear? Okay. Some important revision points that we saw in the last class. How to calculate what is mean, median, mode, what is odds, right? This we have practiced enough. Sensitivity, specificity, incidence, relative risk, odds ratio. Okay, please do not forget whatever is the denominator, whatever is the numerator. If it really odds is what ratio of number of people who incur to ratio of number of people who do not incur that outcome. It is not ratio of number of people to total number of people. And the other thing you have to remember is in odds ratio, how you take the denominator. Okay, relative risk is cohorts, odds ratio is case control at a particular point, cross-sectional studies, snapshot studies, prevalence studies, cohort studies, follow-up, prospective will tell you new cases, that is by incidence. Okay, then positive, negative, predictive value, sensitivity, specificity, we saw enough. Skewed data, median, the middlemost value after arranging the data, right? The average value would be mean. Most commonly observed value would be modes, correct? And that's odds and odds ratio. These are very important points. These are the two slides that you have to revise 7 days before the exam. Okay. With this, I conclude statistics. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Madam, I
Thank
have
you
one
very much,
question.
madam.
Yes,
During
yes.
the exam of MRCP one, do they give any plain paper to calculate this? Because we don't have other option by memory, we cannot do that.
Option. They do give you pen and paper. They don't allow your pen and paper, but put the pen and paper there.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam.
Yeah. Thank you. All the best.